Mistress of All Evil, A Tale of the Dark Fairy by Serena Valentino. Copyright 2009, Disney Enterprises Incorporated, published by Disney Press. Chapter 4, The Land of Dreams. In the Land of Dreams, things worked differently than they did practically anywhere else. Almost anything was possible in the dreamscape. The land was frozen in a perpetual twilight. The never-setting sun cast an ethereal glow and created a special brand of magic known to some as the Golden Hour. All inhabitants of the Land of Dreams occupied their own spaces, like many little hamlets in a kingdom of unfathomable size. Each chamber was composed almost entirely of mirrors, and if the dreams could master the magic of the mirrors, they would get a glimpse of the outside world. However, the dreamscape's magic remained elusive to most of the realm's visitors and befuddled some of its more long-term occupants, making it a terribly lonely place. Magic was not something unfamiliar to Aurora. Although her fairy caretakers had hidden their powers from her for the past 16 years, she'd always sensed something magical about them. Aurora never talked about it with her fairy aunts, but she knew when magic was near. She didn't know why, but it hadn't frightened her. She could also sense magic moving in other kingdoms, even in those farthest from hers, so it wasn't difficult for her to puzzle out how to use the magic in the Land of Dreams. Aurora reasoned the magic one could wield in that world wasn't particularly powerful. If it were, she would have found a way to wake herself. It seemed Maleficent's sleeping curse was too powerful for the dreamscape's magic to overcome. Besides, the magic in that place wasn't direct, or even particularly practical. It was rather basic and mundane, yet somehow simultaneously unpredictable and chaotic. Nonetheless, the princess had harnessed it to see into the outside world. Aurora's corner of the dreamscape was an octagon chamber, built entirely of towering rectangular mirrors. She could see reflected in the glass a myriad of past and present events throughout the many kingdoms. Initially, she had wondered if the room and images were merely a dream, but she had decided that they were real. That simple decision gave her the power to control the images that appeared in the mirror. Aurora had quickly realized all she had to do was think about someone she wanted to see, and their image would appear in one of the mirrored glass panels. She could see where that person was and what they were doing, which made her feel less lonely in the strange realm. That brought her comfort, even if she knew she might never again walk in the waking world. It was strange having so much knowledge at once and having so little power to direct her own fate. But she listened, she watched, and she learned. Aurora discovered her betrothed was actually the young man she'd fallen in love with in the forest. She learned that Maleficent had arranged to keep him captive in her dungeon. She knew her fairy aunts had changed her name to Rose to protect her, and she knew why. She knew everything. She even thought she knew why Maleficent was doing all of this, but that part was too terrifying to think about. So she focused on other people. Aurora looked in on her fairy aunts, who seemed to be planning a visit to witches Aurora didn't know. Sometimes Aurora looked in on her mother and father while they slept. She tried to see what they dreamed, but she couldn't. The princess supposed their dreams were their own. She even tried to find them in the dream world, but it seemed that traveling between the chambers was impossible. So Aurora tried to be content with acquainting herself with her own story. She watched events from her past scroll by in the many mirrors of her chamber. Flashing images cascaded across her vision, and she saw herself as a baby in the day of her christening. There in the dreamscape, Aurora first laid eyes on Maleficent, the tall, stoic, dark fairy. She was probably the most beautiful creature Aurora had ever seen, standing there among all her parents' guests. And Aurora had witnessed how she'd become trapped in this realm, trapped in a sleeping death. Why, she'd spent so many years with her fairy caretakers, believing that she was someone else, a girl called Rose who never thought she was a princess. She honestly didn't know what was worse, living her life in the dream world or living in a world where everyone lied to her. A voice echoed throughout her chamber. "Oh, we know which is worse." Aurora spun in circles, searching all the mirrors. She couldn't see who was talking to her. Over here, princess. Or should we call you Rose? Aurora whirled around again. Peeking out on the right side of one of the mirrors was a strange-looking woman. She was wearing a bright red, voluminous dress, cinched very tightly at the waist. Her tiny, pointed boots stuck out from under the hem of her skirt. Aurora wasn't sure why, but there was something sinister about those boots. They looked like two slinking creatures slithering out from under a curtain of blood. Aurora reminded herself that this was the dream world, and she shouldn't let her imagination run wild. But nothing about the woman seemed right. Her features were all out of proportion. Her deathly pale skin, large bulbous eyes, pitch black hair, and tiny red lips. Nothing quite fit. Just then, two more women who looked exactly the same entered the mirrors on either side of the first, creating a trio. "Yes, we are three," they sang together as one. "This has to be a dream," Aurora said to herself. "These women can't be real." "Oh, we're real, princess," the first woman said. "Welcome to the land of dreams, little one," the second one chimed in. "Yes, we have been searching for you," the third one added. "Maleficent will be happy we found you," all three said in unison. At that, the sister witches began to cackle, their laughter sending chills through Aurora's heart. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell to keep up to date on all the new magic. Have a magical day.